Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright, so this massive immigration raid on a Hyundai facility in Georgia just went from a big scandal to a massive freaking scandal now connected to the Democrats and Joe Biden's administration. Yet again, another giant promise from Joe and the Democrats about good paying jobs for Americans. Another photo op, another government subsidized scam where they get to brag about bringing work back to the American working class. And now, well, the truth comes out very clearly. It's all smoke and mirrors. We just witnessed one of the biggest immigration raids in U.S. history, which arrested nearly 500 workers, and that was obviously big enough of a scandal. But now, of course, the internet is doing what the internet does best, starting to connect the dots, and we've now realized that actually, this Georgia battery facility for Hyundai was one of Joe Biden's flagship projects. In other words, Joe Biden was taking your tax dollars to put illegal immigrants to work. Not American workers in Georgia cashing in on this once-in-a-generation investment, but illegal migrants running the construction site. This is pretty much everything wrong with the American economy right now. And obviously, the real problem stems from Washington. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so first I want to start off with the raid itself, because actually, we've got some video footage of the event. It's pretty wild, actually. ICE agents roll in, and suddenly you got people scattering like roaches. Absolute chaos ensued as they walked in the building, and it's pretty shocking because, it's not just some hidden sweatshop. It's not a sketchy factory running in a corner in Chinatown. No, this was a massive Biden admin-backed project. The Hyundai battery facility in Georgia. It's a project that the Biden administration was celebrating directly. It was part of the proof that his economic agenda was working. And now we learn that the people working weren't even American citizens. And actually, just to prove to you guys that this was in fact part of Joe Biden's agenda, we've got a statement from the briefing room from October 25th, 2022, statement by President Joe Biden on the Hyundai investment in Georgia. My economic agenda passed by Democrats in Congress to rebuild our manufacturing and infrastructure here at home continues to pay off for the American people, this time in Georgia. This plant was announced during my trip to the Republic of Korea in May, and I am excited that the groundbreaking is happening months ahead of schedule. Hyundai's commitment to invest more than $5 billion and create more than 8,000 jobs making electric vehicles and batteries will help boost the entire community around Bryan County. With good jobs, people can raise a family on and ultimately help lower costs for the American people. This has been at the heart of the historic legislation we have passed over the past 2 years, and the last thing we should do is repeal it as Republicans in Congress want to do. Now, I'm not sure that Republicans were planning to repeal the bill, but to be honest, considering that a good chunk of the investment went straight into the pocket of illegal aliens, well, maybe it should have been frickin' repealed at this point. Holy frickin' moly. And I'm sure people will try to spin or distract from this as if it's no big deal. Well, the people who are going to end up working in the facility, they would be American citizens. Who cares if illegals are building the facility itself, or as if it has nothing to do with Hyundai or Joe Biden and the Democrats. It's the fault of the contractors, but clearly that's nonsense. Obviously, Hyundai was benefiting from outsourcing the dirty work to these subcontractors who were getting illegals to work on the facility. Clearly, the Democrats were benefiting as Joe Biden was headed to Korea to announce the massive deal, bragging about the subsidies, talking about creating good American jobs. But the whole thing was a scam. As they were benefiting politically, the American people were losing out again. The biggest industrial project in Georgia in decades is supposed to be about helping the local community, and that includes putting up the facility itself. American workers should have had that job to put up that facility. And essentially what happened here is that your tax dollars got funneled into a foreign corporation that was abusing cheap labor instead of good-paying jobs for hardworking Americans, which would have benefited their families directly. The Democrats view it as a massive economic win, but it's a frickin' con job, and obviously the only people who are benefiting here are the massive corporations. This is where the Democrats' whole working class shtick, I think, falls apart. They campaign on protecting the little guy, made in America, on unions, on jobs, but when it comes to deliver, it's always the same frickin' scam. Subsidies for the major corporations, cheap labor for the elites, and broken promises for American workers. And of course, when they get caught, they point fingers, they make excuses, they pretend like nothing happened. This is a massive scandal now involving the previous administration, and Democrats, as far as the eye can see, are either ignoring this story or justifying it or spreading misinformation that actually the people who are detained detained or arrested by ICE were South Korean nationals that were just there to inspect the facility for Hyundai because they have the expertise. They weren't actually company employees working illegally in the country. And yes, that's true, there were some South Koreans on site who were detained, not arrested, and those South Korean nationals were fine, but the Democrats are trying to use that to pretend as if there weren't illegal workers here, but rather Donald Trump's ICE came in and misread the situation entirely, arresting people on a business trip. That's not what happened. There were illegal migrants that were arrested. They weren't working directly for Hyundai. No, they were working for the subcontractors that Hyundai was paying to put up the facility. Again, we got a situation here where politicians should be outraged by this, the Democrat Party especially, but instead it's nothing but excuses and fake news. These pathetic justifications and distractions. And again, I think it's a shining example of why government has no business playing venture capitalist with American taxpayer dollars. They shouldn't be picking winners and losers or throwing billions of dollars at massive corporations, hoping that it somehow trickles down. In my view, the government's job should be more oversight, watchdogs, protecting American workers instead of handing out massive checks to massive corporations who want to cut every corner possible. And of course, when we say cut corners, it means cutting a path or treading a path around the American worker. And the irony here is that Democrats call President Trump cruel. They'll cry about his crackdown on illegal labor. How dare he put America first? Think about how crazy that is. But what's really cruel is taking tax dollars from hardworking Americans, promising them jobs, and then kicking them to the freaking side so illegals can work for pennies on the dollar. That's cruelty. That is a betrayal. It's a betrayal of the American people and a betrayal of what should be their number one oath to office, working on behalf of their constituents, on behalf of American voters and citizens. And so once again, we got another massive scandal that's blowing the lid off Biden's Bidenomics economic scam. Shows you exactly what Democrats mean when they say working class. It's simply a buzzword. It's not a promise. You can't be for the working class while being in the pocket of these major corporations and lobbyists. And clearly you can't have national interest in your people's workers when you're totally beholden to the globalist view. They don't give a crap about Americans. They care about subsidies and optics, keeping their corporate buddies happy, all while pretending that they're out there fighting for your interests. It's despicably duplicitous. And the result is the same every time. Americans pay, corporations profit, illegals benefit, and the working class gets absolutely shafted. This right here should be the last straw. No more subsidies dressed up as job creation. Let the real job creators, the small businesses and the entrepreneurs do that naturally. We don't need central planning and government investment. The government should be doing its job, and that's protecting the American people and their interest. Again, oversight. If you want an economy that actually benefits American workers, you need leadership that puts America first, not Hyundai first, not political optics and celebrating your infrastructure bill win first, and certainly not putting illegal labor first. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.